Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. It's April 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And super thrilled to have the opportunity to be here with you all and to be here with my very, 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 very special human, Meghan Hogan, who is lead faculty of the Yoga Vidya School. And we're always brainstorming about how we can give you more information about what we do and why we do it, and to sort of showcase Yoga Vidya. And so Meghan had this great idea of doing an interview. So I'm going to be an interviewee, and Meghan is going to be the interviewer. And then we'll have time for questions and comments if you'd like. So thank you, everybody. And let's just start with, I think I want to start with the Shanti mantra, so that this becomes an informational and learning platform that brings us together rather than creates more disparity and conflict. So now's the time for us to do that. So we'll just start with that really quickly. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvichavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Okay. So.
All right. So thank you for setting up this virtual space for us so beautifully and bringing that energetic vibration in to frame the way in which we love to share. So I thought, Lauren, maybe I would introduce you really quick, because I know we have a couple of folks joining in who may not have studied with you directly before, or who may learn more about you in the future. So Lauren Tulin is my teacher. She is the founder of the Yoga Vidya School, as some of you know. She has quite an impressive resume. She has achieved a status as senior level 3 certified para yoga instructor. She is an Ayurvedic practitioner, rather unique. She is a certified yoga therapist, which is quite a distinguished title as well. She has written for many publications. She was a longtime editor for the Anatomy and Asana column of Yoga Journal. And as her students, we see the fruits of that mastery, certainly, of the awareness of sort of alignment and functional movement within asana, and she shared that with a broader audience in that way. Lauren and I and some of you are initiates of the Sri Vidya tradition and are overjoyed to call the Himalayan Institute our spiritual home. So there's a few things, I know I'm probably leaving things out. I should have written this part down. But along, in addition to this list of beautiful certifications and ongoing study that is reflected, Lauren as a teacher has shaped the lives. I think this is as important to share as any titles of many, many students, myself included, and it's been an honor to witness the way that she individualizes teachings to anyone who takes their seat in front of her, and develops that established over time. So there's a tiny little bit about Lauren, and thank you for taking the time today, Lauren, to do this. Kind of a special part of knowing that we have a little time these days. So I thought we could start by talking about like the broader landscape of yoga, and then focus in on Yoga Vidya's specific contributions to the field. You have been practicing for 4 decades and teaching for more than 25 years. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what the yoga scene looked like when you started practice and how that is the same now and different now.
Right. Okay, great. So thanks for that. Thanks for that tee up. And yeah, I when I hear you say all of the things that I've experienced and accumulated in terms of credentials, it makes me very, very happy. I'm proud and also confident to be a conduit of these teachings for people. But anyway, so back 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago, I think I was, yeah, so 42 or so years ago, I was a teenager, and I through a new agey type neighbor who took me under her wing, I started my yoga path, and it was in a church basement. And we, some of you may have heard this before, but we quilted our own yoga mats. So we, there wasn't a lot of vinyasa and things like that. It was sort of a lot of what we might call mushy yoga, a lot of laying down, relaxing, that kind of thing. And yoga was not a cultural phenomenon or even an economic phenomenon as it is now. It was actually quite surprising to be in that church basement with 6 or 7 people only, and have the gal teaching from, I believe it was from the Shivananda tradition, which was really one of the only schools that was sort of established, really super established in this area in the Northeast at that time. And yoga was not really on anybody's radar, and was certainly not well understood. Although those who were practicing it back then, I feel like probably had more of a genuine understanding of the depths of yoga and the actual classical teachings of yoga. Since then, of course, we've seen in the past, particularly 20 to 25 years, an explosion of yoga as a quasi-fitness modality with a little sprinkling of spirituality. It's still evolving as a wellness discipline, I believe. And in a lot of ways, the evolution of yoga as we know it today has been very helpful for us, particularly in the field of yoga therapy. Merging some allopathic, structural, physical, scientific things in with yogic teachings to create a very nice, comprehensive, and effective holistic wellness system. So in a lot of ways, and in terms of the literature that's out there and some of the teachings, great evolution and great dispersion of yogic knowledge. And I think that that's being supported kind of by a necessity, a need that's in sort of the subtle realm. But at the same time, the explosion of yoga has come out sideways. For those of you who know me, I have fairly strong opinions. Not that it's necessarily bad, but some of this stuff that's evolved in the evolution of yoga and the innovation of yoga, actually, I believe limits its potential as a holistic wisdom tradition and healing path. I won't go into any particular detail, naming any particular things, but yoga with animals and yoga fusion with kickboxing, and yoga to sell everything from cars to yoga to yogurt to baby food. It's become a commercial enterprise. And I feel like most people who are drawn to yoga are drawn in part through their heartstrings, through a need, whether expressed or not, to feel more connected. And so that's a great thing. But I'm hopeful that those who come into yoga through some of these more morphed ways will eventually allow that dust to settle, and they'll find the true and classical teachings. There's a lot there's a lot of stuff out there because yoga is not a very highly regulated industry, and it is an industry that is convoluted and made up. And again, not necessarily bad, but not necessary. There's such a wealth, a depth, and the breadth of traditional classical teachings that don't need to be adulterated in order for them to actually be applied and practiced and utilized in a very positive and healthy way. So my aim with Yoga Vidya is to bring forward those teachings that are traditional in a way that really land on people, that it may cause some confusion or doubt or any of the other things that come up when we are faced with resistance to change. But the teachings themselves are these amazing guideposts, and they come from a place of the deepest knowing beyond anything we can actually in our workaday lives really even fathom. They come from such a deep knowing, from such a deep experience, that they don't need to be altered in order for us to have faith in them and to lean into them. So I'm not sure, is that what answered, that answer your question?
It does. I think that helps you helped us through your own kind of journey and the ability to kind of observe it over time, this kind of path of yoga as like a little unknown, obscure, to like whoosh, highlighted, perhaps dressed up and or packaged in any number of ways, and then right back to the core of it, that what we do in our practice is basically like unwrap the packaging that it comes in to reveal what is at the heart of the teachings, as you said. So yeah, thanks for helping to kind of help us walk through the journey that yoga itself has had as industry.
Yeah, I mean,
practice
yoga in its most basic kind of definition and expression and goal is a path toward personal fulfillment and freedom. So we use the body, we use the mind, we use the breath to get us there. But modern yoga mostly stops at the body. And so that's why I'm saying I'm not lamenting per se, but it's incomplete, because yoga is a state of consciousness. Ultimately, it's not a state of backbending.
Yeah.
That's where we are right now. So it's nice to know that not just Yoga Vidya, me, you, and faculty of Yoga Vidya, but there are really tried and true, legitimate, experienced teachers out there that can offer the full breadth of it. That it's not just about the execution of a perfect pigeon pose or sun salutations or whatever. Yeah. There's so much more. But it didn't need to be invented in the last 20 years. What we need to do is go back to the roots. And that's what we're doing.
Beautiful. So in line with your path, you have studied, again, we kind of lean into this idea of digging one well deep, really investigating the breadth and the depth of the practice and staying one thing over time, so that we can really get to know it from the outside in and then from the inside out. And so that said, you have maintained relationships with teachers over long periods of time, and you started teaching teachers in 2004-ish. And that was after years. Say that again?
Yeah, I just said yes.
Awesome. Okay. And that was after years of apprenticing with Rodney Yee, and then studying with Yoga Rupa Rod Stryker. So I have a curiosity about if there were qualities if they had qualities as teachers or particular takeaways that you had from their teaching methodology that inspired you as you founded the Yoga Vidya School.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Well, I would have to also add that Barbara Baina, who's now sort of pretty much retired from teaching yoga, was also extremely influential to me. And she was a Boston-based yoga teacher. So Barbara, Rodney, and Rod all impressed me with two or three things. One was their capacity to communicate in a way that was very clear and very direct, that wasn't watered down. That's very impressive to me. So it appealed to my personality to have these fiery types of teachers that didn't beat around the bush and had passion. And the passion for what they were offering came from direct experience, which was also very impressive to me and made me, I'm a pretty skeptical person, pretty independent person. I need a teacher who I know from the get-go really walks their talk. And that was absolutely true of these folks. And then the last thing is their absolute expertise. So I got from Barbara, we'll say, a way of communicating with such a depth of clarity that came from her direct practice. So I knew if I wanted to aspire to that level of teaching, I needed to be a very, very diligent student. So that was that. Her humor, her wit, are all things that I aspired to. So that communication style. Rodney, amazing architect of the body, and his ability to express it in a way where his narrative and your experience were perfectly positioned. So there wasn't a pause there. And then with me directly apprenticing with him, he was very hard on me at times, towards the end of my apprenticeship particularly. He didn't give me much room to make mistakes. And that felt a little scary to me, but it was also, it made me want to work harder. So that was interesting. He required me to be diligent and to know my stuff like that. And then with Rod Stryker, Yoga Rupa, who's been probably exclusively my teacher since, I committed to him. I started to study with him in 2000, and then committed to being his student and only his student in 2004. His capacity for memory, his capacity to touch people very, in a way, not touch with fingers, but to touch their hearts, his compassion, his patience, and then the breadth of his knowledge. He was a lot less hard on me at most of the time than Rodney was, although there were times when that was not the case. But again, that I wanted to aspire to be like all three of them in terms of mastery of the craft, and that's informed my life over the last 30 years, my teaching, and my ability to also be a yoga therapist, which I highly value in terms of being able to work with people one-on-one and know when it is appropriate to invite them to push their own boundaries, to hold them as they meet their own resistance. And so all three of those have sort of helped me to weave a beautiful, beautiful tapestry for how I express myself as a teacher. That, and then my own life, being a teacher as well. So I'm super grateful to have been made myself available and ready to have such extraordinary experiences through such extraordinary teachers. Yeah.
Wow, that was really cool. Thank you for sharing your experience with your teachers. I had sort of these different sensors of, you know, recognition and appreciation for some of those qualities that, you know, at some point you emulate in another and then embody for yourself. And you know, as your students presently, we get the fruits of honing those skills of clarity, you know, knowing the direction that you're going in and how to get there. And yeah, this level of mastery and ability to really see the student in a multi-dimensional way is amazing.
Yeah, I'd also like to just say, and it's something that Megan, I see you as a teacher developing your skill set towards, is that our role as a teacher is not just to provide a bunch of information, but to foster the conditions for profound change in our students. And sometimes that is, sometimes we have to actively challenge our students. We have to hold up the mirror and say, hey, you know, this is what I'm seeing. You were told to do this, you're not doing it. This is why this keeps happening. So that idea of challenging, and my teacher, Yoga Rupa, Rod Stryker, you know, if you're not willing to create the space where the student gets uncomfortable, you're not a teacher. And so I'm not masochistic, but I'm so glad that all three of these primary teachers of mine had required me to be uncomfortable, because that's the point at which you go, whoa, I've got it. You know, this is an opportunity for me to change and to shine. And this is the definition of tapas. So the teacher themselves can create the tapas for you. They can create the conditions for you. And I see you doing that, that more and more. And it comes from that inner strength that comes from your own practice too.
Thank you so much. Ian asked me the question today. I had had the opportunity to give that responsibility, as I've learned from you, and to foster that self-reliance. And he kind of identified, you know, to kind of hold that ground, you know, how did that feel for you? And I said, it was absolutely gratifying, because I saw what it opened up for the student. So thank you for the opportunity to, you know, to rise into that. And I think we also learn about how to really, part of what we get to do, or what we aim to do, is to develop a relationship with the student over time. And that creates that safe container for that exploration to happen, and for people to bump up against their edges a little more willingly, and you provide the tools for that to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And we hear again and again, Megan, and other faculty that are on the call, we hear again and again that people are grateful that the programs that we do offer, for the most part, are over a long span of time, so that they have that we have the opportunity to get to know each other, to support you as a student. You're in a little kula or a little yogic family that supports you, and you have the time to allow the teachings to penetrate and unfold, as opposed to other programs which, you know, are expedient, but they don't, because of the way that they're structured, they cannot offer that. And yeah, I mean, you've been my student, Megan, for 8 years, 9 years, something like that.
9 years. Yeah, coming up on a decade.
Was on the call. We got Jennifer Green Galuli, Jennifer Venditti, again, long-term, you know, and keep coming back and refining over time. That long-term relationship with a teacher is something that's very, very precious. And in this society, it's really, excuse my term, but it's, we're way too wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like I want to, we get asked very frequently, well, does Yoga Vidya do a 3-week summer program? No. I don't believe in it. Maybe I won't say that will never happen, but it's like, well, I want to get this done like this. And it's like, that's not the way yoga works. That's fast food drive-through. You'll get some nutrition out of it. You'll get some sense of accomplishment out of it, but it's not a lasting form of nourishment. So yeah.
So I think what we're starting to point into a little bit is some of the core values of the school. So you founded the school in 2011, and since then you've certified hundreds of teachers, not only through Yoga Vidya, but also through the Para Yoga School. You directed that certification program for some time. Yes. Yeah. So some of the driving principles of the school today are that we develop teachers who are practitioners first, who have, your kind of phrasing, who have the ability to teach people, not just postures, and that our approach encompasses full spectrum yoga. So three kind of things there. Develop teachers who are practitioners first, who have the ability to teach people, not just postures, and that the approach encompasses full spectrum yoga. So I wondered if you can offer a little bit about what each of those core values means to you, and also maybe why they are important within what you sometimes call like the wild west of yoga. Like we've identified that it's kind of that there's not a ton of regulation, that the content and approach within programs varies widely. So I'd like to hear from you about what these values mean to you.
Yeah. Well, again, this goes back to us trying to be a school that is traditional, and yoga did not used to be, and I'm sort of like a walking paradox. Yoga was not a commercial venture per se. This was a spiritual wellness and spiritual path, and so to make it a commodity where we're just churning out sort of cookie cutter yoga teachers who can teach a specific sequence or have some specific or some kind of general knowledge with a thin veneer of spirituality. It's not what we're about. What we're trying to do is shift individual consciousness, to have an effluent wave, to shift collective consciousness to a place where people are healthier mentally, right? So this whole spiritual science is about that. So if you're not actually deeply diving into your own universe, how are you going to expect to affect anything outside of you, or even to show up in a way that is healthier, that is for you personally, bringing you more personal fulfillment and freedom? You can't express that unless you know it. So practitioners first. And I know that some folks in the programs initially get a little bit confused, or maybe even a little bit impatient. Well, when am I going to learn to start teaching? Well, one of our premises around practitioners first and teaching people, not postures, is teach what you know. So we're pretty rigorous in getting you to sort of like imbue yourself with some primary teachings around breath, around posture, and around having an increased ability to view the contents of your own mind with objectivity and make discerning decisions about what it is that's going to continue to influence your path moving forward. That comes from managing the energy of the body, right? All of that. So that's the idea of practitioners first. And then as a practitioner, the skill set sort of overflows into, if you're teaching a classroom with some folks in it, we're trying to teach we're not instructing, okay? We're not instructing a form. We're not providing a show. We're not fostering a deeper dive into distraction. We're asking people through our presence to be present. And to the best of our ability, which grows over time, have individual relationships with our students so that we can get to know them. They can express what they need. We can see what they need versus what they want. And then work to the traditional yoga goal, which is ultimately a spiritual path. And it might be that we're encouraging their self-knowledge through getting them to externally rotate their femur more, or to stop doing this habit or that habit in the body that we can see actually occludes their energy. So ours is a school that really has very little interest in creating pretty Instagram-worthy yogis. So that's the second principle, okay? That happens over time, and if that's your thing, that's great. Everything can happen together, but you've got to have the knowledge and you've got to have the practice that will help to foster that. So this idea of full spectrum yoga, again, going back to what's the original purpose? Fulfillment and freedom, greater degrees of freedom, getting free from your past, getting free from your habits, fostering new habits that actually create personal empowerment and a deeper sense of why you're here, and a deeper sense of gratitude for the gift that you got of becoming a human in this life. Those kinds of things are not glib, they're not trite, they're not theoretical constructs. This is not that thin veneer of spirituality. This is the core of what yoga is about. And so we use all of the tools and techniques that we have available to us, that we have mastery of, and we offer that to the students as a way of bringing them onto that path. So the full spectrum of yoga is yoga psychology, yoga philosophy, energy management. So again, using the tools of body, breath, mind to bring us to a different state of consciousness where we're freer, where we're healthier, where we're able to more fully express the inherent wealth that we have of being human. And to do this without being subject to so many obstacles. Okay? It's like we're continuing to not just walk, but to run down a wooded path in the dark. And we keep tripping over the same stones because we can't see them. And we keep tripping over the same stones because we're moving too fast. We think there's something at the end. But yoga teaches us step by step by step by step to move around, or to move around the obstacle, or to move the obstacle. That could be something in the physical body. It could be something in the breath. It could be something in the mind. So full spectrum yoga, we bring it all in. We bring in Tantra, we bring in classical texts, we bring in community, we bring in, we demand quietude, we demand that our students meditate, and we give them appropriate and accessible meditations. So we don't stop at the places where many other schools might stop, which is the physical body, or maybe just one other technique, like, well, we're going to teach you how to chant. We're trying to do it all, but in a way that is very, very measured and accessible and approachable. So full spectrum yoga is traditional yoga. We're not separating anything out.
Yeah, I love that. Full spectrum yoga is traditional yoga. And the definition you provided toward the end of that explanation was one of the first definitions of yoga that I recall super resonating with around yoga as an energy management system, of course. And that just plugs right back into your first comments around being practitioners first, because we need to be able to manage our own energy and know what's going on in our internal, as you say, landscape, and to understand that whether we're aware of it or not aware of it, it's going to be impacting what's going on around with us. So why not get to know ourselves really well, so that the energy that we give off, so that the actions that we take have the impact that we would hope for the people that share space with us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And we also acknowledge that this is maybe not what you signed up for, and that this is maybe a little bit scary, or initially you think you don't want to do it. And you know, there's this 1 step forward, 2 steps back thing, and that's another quality of becoming a teacher who's worth their chops, is to say, you know, to give them the support and to engender faith in the teachings, so that they can stay the course. And I'm seeing a few, I'm not going to name names, but I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 people that are on the call right now that have had extreme challenges in their lives, and probably were like, you know, like smushed into yoga, like, whoa, and then they just fell into yoga, and have all 3 of these women have found absolute healing through this. But it's not all pretty, it's not all rainbows, it's not all, you know, outer trappings, you know. It's not like if I wear this mala and if I wear, you know, this colored bindi, it's all going to be okay. It's like, no. One of the things that you hear me say a lot is you have to hold your darkness up to the light so the other side shows through. Yoga invites you to do that and gives you the technology and techniques in order for you to have the wherewithal and the bravery, the courage, and the self-discipline to hold that darkness up and go, okay, this is no longer going to be a veil that creates an obstacle for me to access a deeper sense of inner self and light. Yeah.
Great,
So it's serious stuff, but we also try to make a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. So I want to speak a little bit about the programs. We talked a little bit about how we've seen the landscape of yoga change, and the school itself has expanded over time as well. You have mentored multiple teaching assistants. You have recruited faculty who are experts in their field to augment what you're offering within individual programs. So we have the 200-hour program, the 340 advanced training. Let's see, specialty programs like elemental meditation, restorative yoga, yoga for young ones, and most recently trauma-informed yoga, which I was so excited to share in this winter. Is it this winter? Yeah. So you yourself are constantly studying, modeling that for us. And you know, as you study, you're refining the 200-hour program. Again, the heart of it, and this is what I think really is mastery, the heart of the teachings always is the same. There's nothing that you need to make up, as you say, but you can deliver the heart of the teachings, but adapt them, apply them to what our current circumstances look like, to contemporary needs and day-to-day life. So in that way, that sort of foundational program is always evolving and updated and current, even though it is steeped in tradition, and even as it is, it's not separate, steeped in tradition. So then you say, you know, you'll say, but wait, there's more. So as we finish the 200-hour, there are these opportunities to really hone our skills and to lean into specific content areas. And I think, you know, some of these standalone programs are so important and timely as far as restorative yoga, yoga for young ones, trauma-informed yoga, to really address the needs of a population that is busy, distracted, exhausted, what have you. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit about how the school has shifted and responds to what you see.
Yeah, well, and I feel like the shift has to be more accelerated now than ever because of the challenges we're being faced globally with this pandemic. But you know, just to give a brief overview, rest, deep sleep, and the ability to palliate the nervous system are fundamental to health now more so than ever. You know, that ability for us to be able to unplug seems less and less available to us. And we have to absolutely relearn how to do that. And, you know, this is one of the gorgeous adaptations of classical yoga, hatha yoga, in that restorative yoga is its own separate discipline. You know, we were supposed to be doing a training on restorative yoga and on kids yoga this spring. Those are being postponed because I don't want to compromise the integrity of what we're teaching by trying to do those virtually. Those are in-person trainings. Kids yoga, again, kids are growing up with trauma as a cultural norm. So the kids yoga program, I've been so proud to be able to have adopted it and to invite specialty faculty in who are expert at working with little ones. We have an occupational therapist, Jen Green-Galuli, who just had to get off the call. We have a pediatric physical therapist who's also, you know, an amazing practitioner, Preeti Bhavdekar, on that faculty. And we've got a trauma specialist, social worker, a newer addition, Rebecca Megan, and myself, who's, you know, I sort of create the container for all of this. So we've adapted that program in particular to address the needs of our future generations, and I'm very, very proud of what we're able to offer. We just did a program for St. Catherine Center for Children, which is a huge organization that works with at-risk children and families, the most marginalized population in many ways. So we just did a training for them, their faculty, and it's ostensibly to teach them how to teach kids, but it was more about them learning how to play, learning self-coping strategies and things like that. So that was wonderful. And then so restorative, kids yoga. What was the other one? I'm like,
elemental meditation.
yeah, and trauma.
Trauma informed.
Yeah, so the trauma informed yoga, again, I feel like timely, and this is one of those things where I designed this curriculum to be adaptive. So we're taking the core classical traditional yoga teaching and then taking on top of that modern trauma theory, psychological theory, and the way that they dovetail is incredibly powerful. Again, we didn't need to make anything up, but it's just a matter of how we're weaving the information together to create a powerful experience and curriculum for yoga teachers to be more sensitive to this and to be able to be agents for healing. Trauma is a cultural norm now. Within the next month, we're going to be able to offer that online as a packaged curriculum. So those of you who are on the call who might be interested in that, please just reach out to me. And that's going to be happening very soon. Kayla and I are working on getting it all online and stuff like that. It just hasn't been we haven't been able to really nail it down yet. And then what's coming up as an online training is elemental meditation. Again, more than any of the other specialty trainings, I think teaching yourself how to meditate and then teaching others how to meditate probably is the most important thing we can do right now. That's a dramatic pause. I'm creating dramatic pause. It's the most important thing we can do right now. Figure out how to calm down the contents of your mind. Calm down, get perspective, become empowered, get connected. Our program, Megan and I teach that, is all online. It starts at the end of May. And this isn't necessarily a sales pitch, but I can't think of a more important thing for us all to do to refine our relationship to self, and then how we're expressing self out in the world. So I'm not a person who watches the news every day. It creates far too much confusion and sadness and negativity for me to watch. But to know that we've got such large chunks of our humanity and society who are so misguided that they're deliberately continuing to create division and misinformation, it blows my mind. So how do we contend with that? Well, it's through our own self-awareness. It's through our own core, through our own content, so that we can express ourselves in ways that keep us deeply connected in love and in with aspects of charity and compassion. Meditation helps us to do that. So in terms of content and curriculum, what we've developed is something that's very unique. There's nothing else like it out there, but it's all traditional techniques that are framed in a way that is stepped and staged and ordered, so that it's actually extremely potent and powerful immediately. So that's the elemental meditation. And then we're doing, I do other things through the school, like Ayurveda and yoga for women, tantric tools for self-care, architecture of energy, like all of these other smaller sort of continuing or specialty topics. I don't have any on the docket right now, but those will be coming up very soon with virtual training. And then, of course, we also do a lot of work with private individuals, Meg. So, working individually is a place where the teachings can land, obviously, very personally and very powerfully. And that takes a lot of training and a lot of time and a lot of practice. So that's another aspect of what Yoga Vidya does. And we train our more advanced teachers to be able to do that in the 340-hour. It's all geared towards being able to work with people individually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the future, I don't know what else, we're going to just keep growing and trying to respond to the needs of what we're seeing, and not just in terms of instructing form, but in teaching the how and the why. Mm-hmm. How can we be more human? How can we be more healthy? How can we do this through the traditional teachings of yoga and tantra and Ayurveda?
Beautiful. Thank you. That was an impressive synopsis of all that is available through the school. And we say that we can't exactly require continuing education, but we encourage it for sure. And it's wonderful that there are opportunities to continue to grow as a teacher, to continue to grow in personal practice through with the common thread of the teachings that inform the school in general. And I think it unfolds naturally that over time, as you're integrating what you take in and you're living it more, you're sharing it more, that it's more of like a pull. There's a pull that you feel to even like press pause on teaching for a little while and be like, okay, I'm gonna go soak in some more of this wisdom and see, like, I'm a different person now. I relate to the material differently now. So and get excited again about learning and see, like, what is the next layer to pull back here. And linking it right back up to what you talked about earlier on. It's like then coming to a level of personal understanding with it, pulling it in through your direct experience, and then on the other side, back into sharing again in a more empowered way, and with some new tools to reach people in a different way or to a different depth than where you started. And that's certainly part of what I've appreciated as a student within the school, to continue to dive into personal practice and to hone skills as a teacher. So thank you for making all of these programs available to us.
Yeah, you know, it's really an honor and an absolute privilege, and it's very exciting to continue to plumb the depths of these core teachings and to be able to expand them and offer them in ways that are truly empowering for people. And not just, as you said, not just as teachers, but as practitioners. And if I could call this, you know, in some ways it's a Yoga Vidya is a school of vocational school. But if I could just call this, you know, expanded studentship, you know, I would. But that's what's at the core. It's not just about us accumulating a bunch of skills that we haven't lived, you know, and we haven't tried them out. And it's all about bringing about, for us, less suffering, more growth, more light, more perspective, ultimately more love and less fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I had one more question, but I think that you've really spoken to it around, I said that you have the capacity to know really to guide groups, to see individuals within groups, and to be adapting the teachings to who is in front of you, to the context that you're teaching within, to the constitution of the group that you're sharing with. And so my last question was, what are the through lines that you see? You know, what are the through lines that you see in terms of need, and then the tools of yoga and Ayurveda and Tantra that meet those needs? And I heard you speak to rest and meditation. If there's anything else you want to tie a bow on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say looking at our relationship to our addiction to momentum and distraction. I had the flash of insight a few years back. I think you were probably in the room, Megan, where I said, you know what? We as humans, in our smallest aspect of self, we just exist to be entertained and validated. That's it. Entertain me and tell me I'm great, or tell me I'm okay. Well, we got to go beyond that. That okayness, that validation is something that we have to source from within. The more we rely on the external world, the more we're disappointed we're going to get, and the more in pain we're going to be. So that's a through line, and it sounds not so simple, but that's a through line. So through contemplation, through rest, through discipline, and through faith, those are the through lines that we're really trying to have established in our teaching, I think. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
Discipline, and so you're not going to be so subject to that external seeking to know your place in space. And it comes over time, but I think that's what I would add. Distraction, momentum, and you know, turning the dial on what really validates us. And that's that shloka, you know, dukkha samyoga viyoga yogaha, right? So stop being so attached to your own suffering. Easier said than done, but that's what we unfold for you. Yeah. And at the same time, we teach you how to do a back bend and, you know, an arm balance, and do fancy breathing practices and chant and all that other stuff. It's all part of it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad that you presented that the way you did, and the conversations that I've been having with folks who are, you know, lots of people who are in our Sangha right now. And it's like answering the question, like, how are you, is interesting always, you know, and interesting now. But that baseline, that shift from something outside you needing to say, to validate and say, you're okay. What I'm hearing from your students and from the yoga family is like, there's that internal resonance underneath all of the fluctuation that we're all experiencing to different degrees, that voice that says from the inside, I'm okay. And so thank you for bringing us toward that steady foundations. That's what I'm hearing from people. And I don't know if you get to hear it, but it couldn't be more important. And this is wonderful. We're coming up at about an hour. So should we take a moment to see if anyone who's live right now has questions?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Anybody? A question or comment?
And I'll let you facilitate that, Lauren, because you're more skillful with the tech than I am.
Amber.
Hi, Amber here for those who don't know me. Hello, everyone.
Recorded with my.
This was very, I'm one of Lauren's current students in the program that has kind of
Faculty, we hope, yeah.
trying to fit, yes, and both, I didn't know if we were saying that, but yeah, I'm one of the Yoga Vidya faculty now. Yay! So that's really, really exciting. And it's all very interesting trying to navigate this time frame in such what is a very intensive hands-on program, pathway, learning experience to kind of be forced into this isolated learning environment. It has really challenged me to focus more on my home practice and, you know, like what Lauren said, like the boundaries that your teacher creates, you have to kind of create those for yourself. So there's a little tug of war going on with myself where I'm like, okay, we meditated today, we'll do it again next week. And it's like, you know, but then 2-3 days in a row, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm so diligent, I'm ready, I'm on my mat. And then there's a week where I'm just like eating brownies on the couch. So, you know, trying to find the balance with that independently is really giving me time to get to know myself more. Because I really like what you said. I've been taking notes the whole time. Review your relationship to momentum and distraction. That really resonates with me. And that's what this quarantine isolation time has given me a space to do. So, and I like all of the goals and the principles for the school. And I can identify with the experience of meeting a teacher who kind of puts you in this place just like you do to other people. You know, I feel like I can identify with your personality in the way that you identified with your teachers in the past. And I feel like that's helped me commit to this program a lot more, because I feel like if I had some fluff kind of teacher that was just like, oh, it's okay, and kind of blown with the wind, that's not how I learn. I need to be challenged. I need to be pushed. I need to be encouraged. And I need very, you know, like even the way you're teaching us to deliver the information, how you do it clear, concise, very to the point, cut and dry. I need that. And to hear that you got that from your teachers and now you're sharing it with your students. And that is the key piece for me, why I'm able to fully dive into this program. So I'm really grateful. And just hearing you say that, it kind of made it all click for me, like, oh, that's why, because you got it from there, and it's just like being passed down, and it's really works for me. And I'm really grateful that I signed up for this program, because I will self-disclose, I am one of those people that had a very interesting path in life. And being a yoga instructor, being a yoga instructor was the last thing that I thought I would have been doing. And now to be where I'm at, hi little one, to be where I'm at now, having this spiritual relationship with the higher being and having a home practice and understanding the inner workings of my mind and my spirit, and maybe not being able to control it as much yet, but seeing it, being able to observe that self-observation, that my behavior and my mind was so far from any realm of control in the past that I didn't even know I was capable of some of the things I'm doing now, from the program, from yoga, from the teachings. So I'm just tremendously grateful for this opportunity and to be able to become a part of the school and hopefully one day offer this to other people. I'm really excited. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Amber. And thank you for illuminating all of that. And one of the things that I had said a couple of years ago, and when Megan was still doing training with me, which I just remembered was, and it was like a truth bomb for Megan. It was like, our job is to make our students responsible. Do you remember how
Oh
profound?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that like we lean into the teachings, the to Sangha, but we have to foster that self-reliance. And it was like, it's just like such a no-brainer, but it hit me in a big way that day.
So we
Yeah.
have a reputation in our school as being pretty rigorous, and that's why, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, making you accountable. And if you're not accountable, of course we make allowances for life, but if you're not accountable, if you're not communicating with us, if you're not taking it seriously, then we can't help you. That's our job. It's so nice to see Megan evolving that way, and Jen Venditti evolving in that way. Like, one of Megan's famous statements, and we talked about this on Monday in the Zoom meeting that we had, was, and they made the class made a t-shirt out of it. It said, "Do your damn practice." And that came out of Megan's mouth, not mine. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. Oh no,
that's you got the shine your heart light one on.
Yeah, I got. But anyway, so we have rigor around that. I have like maybe 2 more minutes before I have to get into the other call's already ongoing, but they can wait for me. Does anyone else want to have anything to share before we sign off? So anything else, Meg? Since you're the boss.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just thanks again to everybody who signed on with us. And, if questions pop up later, we're always, we're available.
I have a question, Lauren. This is Kristen. Sorry, I don't have my video on.
That's okay.
I was wondering, I was just thinking about, this has been great, by the way, even though I've been studying with you, I think for 3 or 4 years now, I think.
4, yeah.
But I was just wondering, what was your, teaching your first yoga class? What was that experience for you?
I think my first yoga class was actually, I was doing some personal training for seniors at a gym at a YWCA. As I was doing that just sort of as a little side gig, because I had a whole career as a risk manager, and but I would go in every so often. You can do that when you're in your 20s. You have all kinds of energy. So I think my first actual class was in the gym in the YWCA. And I think we didn't even call it yoga. We called it like deep stretch. And I think that was maybe in 1989. Yeah. And then I moved in. I rented space in a church basement for 7 years after that. Yeah.
Cool. It's just fun for me at least, thinking back on sort of your whole yoga journey, and that first class is kind of an interesting experience. And then to think back on that now after all of the training and this program that I've gone through, and it's like, wow, I almost feel like a whole new teacher. My experience with this Yoga Vidya program is that I found it actually after having experienced another teacher training that left me kind of wanting, and I found you and the program and your teachings and the breadth and depth of them, and it was like, this is why I had a little misstep, but I found my way. So
well, I'm so grateful that you did, not just because you're a wonderful student, but you're you've helped me a lot, and you helped Yoga Vidya a lot, and the way that you express yourself in your teachings, it's so gratifying to me to see how confident you are as a teacher now. And so I feel like, you know, our job is not done, but we've come a long way. And when I first started teaching, I did not have a certification. There was no such thing. There was
Yeah.
so that's an evolution. Again, maybe even in the last 10 years, we've seen a huge, you know, growth in that kind of thing, because it is, you know, it is a business. But Kristen, I'm really proud of you, and I consider myself very, very fortunate to be your teacher and to have a level of student such as yourself, who has so much integrity and positivity. So thank you for commenting on this. So yeah.
But the pleasure is mine, though. It really is. So so lucky. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my loves. I've gotta sign off. Megan, if you want to keep going, please feel free.
Okay.
And
Gotta run too. I've got to get back to class.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a joy, and thank you all so much. To be continued. Let's stay in touch. Let us know what you want, and we'll see if we can provide it.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. If you have any more questions, I can hear them, but I think we're good. Yeah. All right. Much love to all
Thanks,
of you.
Megan.
Thanks for signing in. Yeah. See you all
Take care.
virtually soon, and hopefully in person soon enough too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.